Do you want to know how you go from a 4-unit building to 250 doors? Well, today we have the privilege of interviewing Brad Johnson. In a 5-year span, he bought one fourplex, and 5 years later, he owns 250 doors. How did he do it? We're gonna dive into that today. My name is Juan, president of Sage Real Estate, where we teach you how to build wealth through investing in real estate. We have a lot to discuss. Let's jump right into it. Hey everyone, so we are gonna continue with our investor series. This is where we interview successful investors right here in our backyard, the city of Long Beach. And I'm here with my good friend, Brad Johnson. Brad was introduced to me by my younger brother, David. They went to college together. And so Brad graduates from college. They went to UCLA. And I remember Brad called me and he said, hey, I'm buying my first fourplex. And at that moment, I hadn't met Brad, and Brad had a corporate job down in Irvine or Orange County somewhere. And I'm like, well, where are you buying a fourplex? And I believe it was on Linden, kind of like what I would call not the best area of Long Beach. And so Brad went from buying a fourplex, actually living in it, using FHA financing to get his first fourplex. And he buys it. I don't hear from Brad for years. He calls me 5 years later. And within that 5-year span, Brad went from 4 doors to somewhere around 250 doors, okay? And so I was shocked, caught off guard. And the reason we're interviewing Brad today is, how did he do it? How did he do it? And can we take anything away from what Brad's done so that you could do the exact same thing? So Brad, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So Brad, let's go back to your first fourplex.
Yeah.
From my perspective, having sold a lot of fourplexes, it's like the gateway to bigger investments.
Yep.
So talk to me about your very first one, what you learned, and walk us through after the first one.
In 2013, I closed on my first fourplex. It was February 8th, 2013. I have a college buddy that your brother David knows, and we had the idea of purchasing a 4-unit building. We were roommates at the time. It started, I was working my corporate job. I was in property management. I was managing office and industrial buildings. And, I was working so hard to, maximize the cash flow, to minimize the expenses, just working these industrial and office buildings so hard. And, I would receive a bonus at the end of the year. And, you can go back and forth in your corporate job of, hey, is that, commensurate with the amount of time and effort I put into it. So I knew I had to do something on my own if I wanted, more upside. Okay. But with that, I knew I had to probably take a little bit more risk.
Sure.
Okay. And so, yeah, at the time I'm living in Irvine, we're in a 3-bedroom apartment. I rent a room with a few other buddies, and I'm looking in all the neighboring markets and looking at, okay, where can I afford, what's somewhat close to my job, and what property is going to cash flow. And so I had done a lot of research on, people who had built wealth over the years, how they could generate passive income, what strategies they used, and also how I could maximize my cash flow and to continue to try to scale, And honestly, my goal in the beginning was really like, oh, if I could generate a few $1,000s every month or $5,000, then that would be enough to cover my, my rent, my car payment, my, other expenses. And then I was thinking, wow, I'll just retire, And if I could retire and make $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and that'll just be my job, and that's what I'll do. And it just continued to morph over the years. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So yeah. And so let me take you back to my first deal. So my first deal, I'm living in Irvine. I go to Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach. Man, the deals. I bought my first fourplex for $470,000 in 2013. The other fourplexes I was looking at, maybe 600, 700, in Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach. I was like, oh, that's a little out of my price range. I was concerned about the payment. Mm-hmm. And so first property we bought was off of Atlantic and Anaheim, essentially.
Yeah.
And it was a 4-unit property. My dad was a teacher in the city of Long Beach for 20 years. He taught at Cabrillo High School. My dad owned some real estate off of PCH and Cherry. So I had come up here as a kid. I knew Long Beach a little bit. My parents went to Long Beach State. You know, we ate down here. We came down here to visit. And so there was a little bit more of a comfort level with the city of Long Beach, knowing that. And then I was kind of looking on a map. I go, where can I be coastal and be affordable, but may think, wow, long term, this should have upside to appreciate as well. And so that's it. Kind of, if I wanted cash flow, it was pushing me closer to Long Beach or more up into LA or North Orange County. And then I still wanted to maintain the affordability. So that's basically how I landed here.
You know what's interesting? A lot of people that we work with now hear you talking and they're going to say, that's me. I'm looking for something that's affordable. I want it to be coastal. I want it to maybe make some cash flow. And so those types of things that you were going in or going through or feeling in 2013, people are feeling right now in 2023, saying that's me. Like that's what I'm doing. You find a fourplex. You buy it with FHA financing, which we talk about. That means you came in with as little down as possible, and so he's going to borrow as much as you can, which is good in a lot of situations. And you actually live there.
Yeah. So it was.
How long do you live in the units?
Yeah. So it was 4 1-bedrooms.
Yeah.
And I bought it with a buddy, and I live in the living room, and he lived in the bedroom, and we initially did the renovation work ourselves. And we found out we're not very good contractors. And, we were tired of taking showers at the 24-hour fitness because we couldn't figure out how to finish the plumbing or finish the bathroom. So then, I think we probably did 2 units on our own. And then and my friend's dad actually helped us on one of them quite a bit. But anyhow, so then we hired someone to do the rest. So I wasn't, my dad was like, hey, you know what, if you really want to find out about a property, maybe and you're concerned about the area or you just don't know, let's go there at night. Let's go there at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10, we'll walk the streets together. We'll just kind of figure it out. And when you realize it's not, everything's illuminated, people generally keep to themselves. There wasn't people roaming the streets. It wasn't very transient, So it just felt like, well, I could live here. And at the time I was on a mission. I had a dream. I had a goal. I knew nothing was going to stop me, And I had a girlfriend at the time, and she thought I was kind of crazy for doing this. And we got engaged while I was in that place, and she lived there for 9 months. And, we managed together. My buddy actually ended up getting engaged and lived in a separate unit, so we shared a hallway. But yeah, it was. I knew nothing was going to stop me. I knew I didn't. I was going to persevere no matter what. And we overcame. We made so many mistakes. I probably tore out some great kitchen cabinets that I just should have left in there. But we were thinking, oh, we need to do a full gut and remodel and make it look nice, then you learn, well, you get tenants, and stuff breaks, and then you got to fix it. And then, the cabinets we put in, the cabinets that they built in the 20s, they were like solid wood, maple or whatever they used, but they're good quality. And so you can get around with putting on new hinges or just new countertops and salvaging a lot of the bones that generally are really good in some of these properties.
You know what I like, Brad, is that we're walking through kind of your first investments, and what did you hear? He co-invests with a friend. They get FHA financing. Brad's living in the living room. So none of this is lavish at this moment, right? And you're making a sacrifice. You're used to probably living in a better neighborhood, but you're making that sacrifice because we have that dream.
Yeah.
Right? And so that talks to a lot of people out there, because I know sometimes they come and they want to be in a better area, but it starts with making those sacrifices You know, because certainly Brad is no longer living there. He might still own it, but after that first one, what's the next natural purchase after the first fourplex?
Yeah, so we did that, and then I was kind of onto something. I saw the market changing. I saw the rents moving a little faster than maybe some other people had anticipated in the market. And so then I'm like, wow, I got to do this again. And so then I teamed up with another friend, a coworker at the time. I had changed jobs, and I teamed up with another friend that I had actually known for probably 10 years at the time. And we knew each other through friends of friends through high school, but then reconnected in a separate job. And we said, hey, let's team up together and let's buy this fourplex. So then we basically shared the down payment to come up with another fourplex off of, like, at the time it was a PCH and Atlantic. So it was, you know, maybe 5 blocks up, a neighborhood we kind of knew. We bought it for $480.
Was this the same year, Brad? I'm just trying to get...
This is 2015.
Okay, so 2 years later,
Yeah.
more or less,
Yeah.
you partner up with someone else, gather money, you save up money again to do it all over again.
Yes.
Okay, but in that one, were you going to live in it, or you're not living in that one?
That one we did not live in.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we purchased that one in 2015, and then another building goes up for sale 2 blocks away for $10,000 less than what we purchased that for. And at that time, I had 8 units in 2015. So it took me 2 years. We kind of started slow. I think the rents on the first fourplex I bought, the 3 rents covered the mortgage. So I was basically living rent free, but we were still putting money into our joint operating account so we could pay for renovations, right? So then once we renovated units, we were able to bump rents with market. So then I owned 8 units in early 2015, and then a property goes up for sale down the street. Longtime owner, who was kind of sitting on the market. And at that point, I was able to talk to my dad, and I'd say, Dad, I think there's a unique opportunity here. Mm-hmm. You know, here's the rents I'm getting on this property 2 blocks away and 5 blocks away. I think we should buy this together and co-invest in this together. And at that time, my dad owned another property off of PCH and Cherry. And so he kind of knew the real estate market. And so anyhow, we were able to figure out a way to close that transaction. So by the end of 2015, I had owned 12 units. So here's what ends up happening.
Brad's a perfect example of what I've seen, where it's 4 doors to more doors. And it's not, there's this learning curve that happened not just with Brad, but I see this with every client. They go from asking a lot of questions on their very first investment, whether it's 2 units, 3, 4, or even more. They ask a lot of questions in the very beginning. But after their first investment and they're actually in it and they're doing some renovations, they're working with contractors, they're dealing with tenants, move-ins, move-outs, they're taking in applications, that learning curve happens immediately. Mm-hmm. And all those fears that you once had start to kind of step aside. And all of a sudden you're like, it's a business. I understand it. But really what I'm trying to tell you, it starts with that first one, changes everything in your mind, because what's happening with Brad is now he's seeing opportunities and now he's realizing I could take on more units.
Yeah.
So now we're at 12 units.
So we're at 12 units.
Now what starts happening?
So in 2015, and around that same time, my dad had these 1-bedroom apartment units, and he was, I think his rents were like 40% below market, but he didn't have the money to fix them up. And so at that time, I'm at 12 units. I have, I'm generating a few $1,000s a month in cash flow, right? But then I also still have my day job. So I'd never quit my day job. I got married in 2015. So now my wife and I both make a little, have a dual income. And so I'm able to, my cash flow is good, but I don't have a ton of money in the bank at that time. I've been investing my money. So I was able to partner with my dad on the 12 unit property that he owned and work out something to say, hey, I'm going to increase the value of this property by putting out my own cash to fix up these units. And in return, I want ownership percentage of the property. And so I said, okay, I'm going to fork out the 10 to 15 grand a door to fix these up so we can improve the quality of the apartments. And in doing so, I think we can increase the rents to this amount. And so I worked through, and you know, my dad was a teacher, but he was an investor for many years and pretty, you know, somewhat savvy. I would say he's somewhat savvy real estate investor, but not my training I kept learning on my day job too. So all of a sudden I'm working for big institutions. We're buying office and industrial buildings for 50 million, 100 million, you know, but I knew that wasn't attainable to me because it was like, well, I can't just go to some big bank and say I need a $30 million loan and I want to buy this. Like, you know, I didn't feel like that was reachable for me. So I knew I wanted to kind of start small and then continue to grow. So I'm a partner in that deal. We still own that deal. And then that was 2015. And then I go to 2018. I was able to add maybe another 20 units or so. So then there was a little gap. Oh, in 2017, I actually bought 2 deals. So in 2017, I bought 7 units. So I bought another 4 unit and a 3 unit in 2017. And then 2018, I added probably another 20 units.
So you're right around 2018, about 50 units.
50 to 60 units.
50 to 60 doors.
Yeah.
You brought up something interesting, which I want to get into, which is a topic that we haven't really gotten into at all, which is syndication. Can you simplify what syndication is? Because one of my buddies called me on Monday and he's like, hey, this guy's raising money. What's syndication?
Yeah.
Can we just like simplify it so people understand what that is? And then I'm going to say, explain how you've been able to use it to your advantage.
Yeah, very good. So syndicating equity basically means, you know, you're trying to raise money. You come up with a business plan to buy, whether it's a business, a restaurant, a company that sells shoes, or you are syndicating a real estate deal and you're trying to raise money to purchase the property and you come up with a business plan. We're going to buy it for $1 million. We have to put 40% down. So I need $400,000 of equity just for the down payment. And then I probably need some money to run the property for operations, to pay my mortgage, to pay my electricity bill, water bill. And then if you have a business plan that you want to fix up any units or you have to address a roof repair or paint the building, then you're going to need to raise additional money for those capital improvements. So, you know, you can raise anywhere from probably, you know, if it's $1 million, you know, maybe you have an extra $100,000 or $200,000 you're going to invest into the building to improve the quality, to address any deferred maintenance, to, you know, make any improvements that you think are necessary to potentially increase the value. Or if the property is already improved, you don't need to do any capital improvements, but maybe you still raise a little bit of additional money beyond your down payment just to keep in your operating account for a rainy day, you know, to address any items that may come up, a plumbing repair, a roof leak, a window replacement, you know, things like that generally come up.
So what we're saying in the first example, property's $1 million, you're going to raise $400,000. Okay. Someone's going to say, who the hell is going to invest $400,000 with me?
Yeah.
Talk to us about your very first syndication, or the one that you would consider your first.
Yeah.
And how did that work? Why would an investor want to do that? What's in it for them? What's in it for you?
Yeah.
And the roles that they both play.
Yeah. So in like, this was something that I had to learn, and I was like people like to work with me because I said what I was going to do. I returned phone calls. I was responsive. I just treated people how I wanted to be treated, you know? And so I'm buying these real estate deals, and then my name starts popping up like, hey, this guy closed on this property. And then I would get a phone call from another broker like, hey, I saw you bought that building down the street. I have a client who's interested in selling. Would you be interested? I go, okay. We work out the details on the price, and then I would buy another transaction that way. And I do what I said. I said, okay, I'm going to buy it for this price. Is there any deferred maintenance? Can you disclose anything to me up front? Hey, this these are the things we're going to disclose. Okay, I know that going in, and I can price some of those things going in. And then if we discover things that weren't disclosed and they are detriment to me, then, we can negotiate with the seller on those details. But essentially, so I'm doing a lot of these deals. I'm like putting up 50% of the down payment. I'm partnering with my friends, with coworkers, with family. And then I get to a point.
At this point, when you're saying that, just so people have perspective, when you're partnering with them, and I get it, hey, you're buying something for $1 million, you're putting 50%. That means you're raising money. How much are you asking people to give you? 25,000, 50,000, 100, or does it matter? Like, what are you looking to get to get to that $500,000 down payment?
Yeah. So on the fourplexes, I was able to, or the triplexes, I was able to buy with a 25% down payment. So at the time, if it's anywhere from, let's just say the average purchase price was around 500,000, so that would be something like 115,000 or so. So we needed that money to close, and so my partner would put in 50%, and I would put in 50%.
Right.
So I'm continuing to scale, and then I'm like, keep finding more deals, right? So we talk about syndication, but there's so many ways to structure a purchase. I also would receive a member loan. So let's just say you buy a property for $1 million and you put on 400,000 of equity. So my partner, if we want to be 50-50 owners, my partner can put up 300,000 and I put up 100,000, and he gives me a loan for 100, and we fix it up. We refinance or we sell it, and then the loan gets paid off, and then we share the profits 50-50. In a syndication model, where maybe there's a preferred return, and then you share some profits beyond the preferred return. That's generally the way that syndications are structured.
Brad, the number one question I get is, how do I know if it's a good deal? So how does Brad Johnson know when it's a good deal?
Yeah. So
what's like the main metrics that you're using?
Yeah. So, okay, I'm looking at, generally what comparable buildings are selling for in that market. Okay. Obviously.
And so that's the comparison approach.
That's the sales comparison.
Okay.
I'm also looking at what kind of income the property will generate. And then I'm looking at maybe the location or the physical real estate, and so with that, I would gain appreciation. And so I can focus on a market where maybe I'm going to be closer to the ocean. So my cash flow might be less, but my renter base is going to be generally better, or I can charge a premium to the rents I can obtain on my apartments. And so generally, I'm going to get a better credit-worthy tenant, versus if I'm, more inland, I'm in a maybe less desirable community, then my rents would be lower. Maybe that property will cash flow a little bit more, but it won't appreciate as much. And so that trade-off is really made by the investor and you deciding what the best thing for you is.
So you're looking at every building individually, because there's no one market that you're trying to hit. It just depends.
That's right. And my investors, I have some people that say, hey, I want to I'm looking for a 5 to 6% return on my money, let's just say. But I also want to have upside and appreciation, and I want to have a renter base that is high credit, great quality. Generally they're going to be less harder on the building. The number of occupants in the building might be less, and I'm going to get the qualifications of that renter are going to be a premium. Okay, we're going to buy in these markets. Okay, and then I have another investor. Hey, I want to maximize my cash flow. But maybe you want to maximize your cash flow. That's fine. We're going to buy in these pockets. These are the markets that we're going to look in, and generally, those buildings maybe have several occupants in a 1 or 2 bedroom. There's always trade-offs. Maybe there's not the parking that you need. The functionality of the building. Maybe it's older quality building. It's a 1920s, or 30s, or 40s building. The buildings that sell at lower cap rates that are generally sell for a premium are going to be newer buildings, adequate parking. In Long Beach, that would be anything built after the 80s that maybe has underground parking, maybe has parking in the back. Maybe the square footage of the bedrooms is bigger. Maybe maybe the one bedroom is 700 square feet or 800 square feet. An older unit built in the 20s or 30s, maybe the one bedroom is 500 square feet. And so, if I'm looking to rent and maybe I have enough income to qualify for both units, then I go, it's going to be more comfortable for me to live in a bigger apartment. I can afford it. I'm a better credit-worthy tenant. And so that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah, so what you hear Bradley talk about is, well, naturally he's bringing all of his experience down to making these decisions. He's not solely focused on what metrics. So it's not all about the income. It's about more so about the opportunity on what you could do with that property.
Yeah.
And that only comes with experience.
And yeah, exactly. And I would pay a little bit more money to have a better quality building that was more functional, meaning I had parking. Maybe there's separate buildings on a lot, and I have a yard, or maybe I have in-room laundry. You got to factor in all these qualities, because at the end of the day, you're also competing with your neighbors and the building down the street and a block away, and so you have to figure out, hey, what kind of differentiates ourselves. Maybe there's opportunities to maximize revenue and other facets through parking, through building back utilities. So anyhow, yeah, there's several different components that we look at.
Got it. No, thank you for that. What's the necessary skill set? We saw you go from 4 doors to more doors, but you went to a lot of doors. Like, what skill sets would you believe helped get you to this point?
The skill set you need, you definitely don't need to be a rocket scientist or be the smartest guy in the room every time, but you need to be humble. You need to be willing to listen and learn from others. Ultimately, I think we really need perseverance. You need to be able to understand how to overcome problems. You're going to encounter problems no matter what. And I think you do in your life in generally, whether it's going on a family vacation and you have a disagreement, or you have a real estate transaction, and things are never just going to be absolutely perfect every time. So you become comfortable with that. And then you also become comfortable with the unknown. Oh, what if I can't rent it out for that price? Or what if my construction costs are 10% or 20% more? Or what if I have to do more repairs and I didn't forecast that? How do I overcome that? Or the interest rates have moved faster, and so now I'm going to pay a little bit more interest than I originally thought I was. So you learn ways around that. You learn how to overcome some of those problems. And two, you're investing. The market is all happening around you. The market is, thousands and thousands of investments around you. So there's other people that you're competing with, or your neighbors, that are facing the same problems. And so how do you communicate that to your investors? How do you work through those problems internally? And so you also, the skill set of you become more accurate over time. You build up experiences, so I'm definitely way more knowledgeable today than where I was 10 years ago or so, but also but I have more experience, and I think to come across someone who has the drive and the energy and the motivation, like, the other people feed off that. And if you're just honest with people and you say, hey, this is what I'm doing, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. Maybe you give up some of your profits. Maybe you compensate someone for a mistake that you made, but you know what? It'll pay off in the long run. I never was, robbing Peter to pay Paul. It wasn't like, oh, I gotta hold everything myself. It was like, no, I have a bigger vision. I want to grow something, to be grander. And so what do I have to do to get there?
No, thank you for that. Clearly you could hear it from him, the skill set, that drive, and just that, just being authentic. It's definitely there. He's not pretending to be somebody he's not. Thank you for that. Let's talk about preferred return real quick. like when we see that, what does that mean? Is that the maximum amount? Is that a guaranteed amount? Tell us because we do see, people are out there raising money still today, and people get these kind of these applications or these pro formas, and it says that this is a preferred return. Tell our folks what that even means to somebody.
Yeah. So the preferred return should probably, the rate on the preferred return should be commensurate with the risk profile of that investment, and also the commensurate with, maybe like a risk profile of another comparable investment in the market, whether it's a bond, but maybe you would add a premium to a bond that commensurate for the risk profile of like a investment in a piece of real estate. And then also, like, are you investing in Newport Beach or Long Beach or Santa Monica? So some rough math is like, let's just say you have a 10% preferred return. And then,
so let's just say someone gives you $100,000.
Yeah.
And you told them 10% preferred return. What does that mean to them in their $100,000?
Let's just say, so you have $100,000. Mm-hmm. So that means a 10% return on your $100,000. That means you're going to earn $10,000. Let's just say a 12-month period.
Okay.
You're going to earn $10,000 on that first, right? And then if there's any profits above that 10,000, then usually there's a split, but it's generally not pro rata. So if we raise 200,000 and you put in 100, you are generally, you're 50% of the equity. Mm-hmm. So, right. So instead of getting 50% of the profits above a 10%, maybe you get 40% or something, because the partner, I'm the general partner, I'm working the deal, I found it, I'm working the renovation, re-tenanting, I have my whole business plan. I'm probably going to get slightly more of the profits above a 10% return. I mean, when you look at the math of these syndications, it's like there's a project level return. Let's just say it's a 20% IRR, and then there's a investor return, right? And then there's a general partner return, or whoever's syndicating the deal return. So, there's some general rules, maybe the splits, someone can earn maybe 20, 30, 40% of the profit, sometimes 50% of the profit above a 10%.
Sure.
But, it generally shouldn't be any more than that. And then you look, so you're going to earn at least 10% return on your money, and then you're going to participate in the profit. So your overall return might be 15% or 17% or 18%. So, and the benefit of that, instead of buying a REIT, a publicly traded REIT, is I'm going to buy Blackstone publicly traded REIT that covers a certain market or a product type. Okay. But, I'm a little more savvy, or I trust, certain people who I know who have, executed on business plans. And I go, wow, this guy, he has a niche in this market. I'm going to be able to invest in this single piece of real estate. And I like the business plan. And I think that he's going to perform. And I looked at the rent comps, the sale comps. I know the market. I live 2 blocks down the street, or I live 20 miles away, so I can actually go see the property. I can go to this guy's house. I can call him. He's trustworthy. So you take, I'm not sure if it's essentially more risk, but you're able to, maybe participate a little bit more. You're able to, that investment is a little bit more tangible versus looking at a ticker symbol and trying to comb through, a 10K every year or whatnot, and to try to digest maybe what the.
So what you're saying, in some of our clients, we always, we're very invest, kind of go where invest locally, so that you could essentially kick the tires. Mm-hmm. And so what Brad's talking about is, should someone invest in his syndication, put up some money on a project that Brad has decided this is the right one for us to hopefully be profitable with. Mm-hmm. It's, typically investors, for Brad, it probably started off with family and friends, and then he built a reputation of, hey, he's performing well, everyone's getting a good return, they're happy, maybe it's a better return than other investments, and so probably more money continues to follow you. But what's good for them is that they could essentially, if you're telling them that you're replacing windows this 1 week, they could go see that windows are being replaced.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
They can, if I write up a report and say, hey, we finished painting the exterior, we replaced the roof, we replaced the windows, then they can actually go and see that, right, and check that out. They can go, and if we have a listing on the, we're trying to rent an apartment, they can go online and probably see pictures of inside the unit. If they wanted to tour the unit, they could as well. But, what I was saying earlier, where, wow, I'm building relationships, I'm doing what I say, I'm honoring my word. I've made so many mistakes, but I corrected them, and then I would try not to make the same mistake again. So as my business has grown, and I've made promises to my investors and I've executed on those promises, then all of a sudden Juan talks to his friend, and he goes, hey, this is the guy I'm investing with. This is what I'm doing with my money. This is where I've seen some opportunity. These are maybe the returns that we're getting on these other deals. And so I'm going to continue to invest with that person because I believe in that market. I believe in the story. And so and again, you're focused in on generally 1 or 2 pieces of real estate and not a big portfolio that maybe you're not familiar with, you don't know, you can't drive to, you don't have as much, attachment to.
So what's ended up happening, if I understand this correctly, you start the syndication and now you're able to grow bigger. Everyone talks about scaling, and scaling just means, the best way that I could describe it is faster, efficient growth. Okay, we're not talking about like, hey, I'm growing 1%, 5% per year. This is explosive growth if it's done right. I mean, that's really what scaling is. Would you say that syndication allowed you to get to that point?
Yeah, because, at some point you just run out of money, you just like a syndication model is that I'm able to put up 10% of the equity, 15, 20% of the equity. So like you put up less equity, but you can participate in some of the profits and some of the upside. And like, we all wish we had 100 million in the bank or whatever to continue to invest. And, in hindsight, I would have bought them all on my own and owned them all, but I couldn't, and I still can't today. And it's also good to kind of diversify your money. You're not in, all your money in one basket, in one deal. We're investing in several different deals. And so even in all my investors, I tell them like, you got however much money, sometimes it's not the best to put it all in one deal. Maybe put in half or 20% or whatever you feel comfortable with, and then see how we perform. And then if you want to invest more in the future, you can. But anyhow, the syndication model helps you scale. And so with that, you have attorneys that help you with operating agreements. You have reporting that we do. We're investing in software to run our business. Obviously hiring employees to help to help manage the portfolio. And so you make $10, but then you reinvest $5 back in the building. And then you make $15, and then you reinvest half of that back into your company, the building, your software, your accounting team, So it's 2 steps forward and 1 step, half a step back, and then 2 steps forward again. And so we continue to kind of climb.
Brad, how many units are you at today?
Plus or minus 250 today.
Got it. Okay. Let's talk about the market today and a lot. Okay, so clearly you're an expert investor. You've done syndication. You own multiple units. Are you still buying today, or are you afraid of the market? Because I want them to hear, because a lot of them are saying it's high interest rate, the values are high, the cap rates are low, I'm never buying. What is it that you like? How are you looking at what we have in front of us today?
Yeah, so if I go back to 2022, I only purchased maybe 4 or 5, a portfolio, but it was like 4 or 5 properties. And then I didn't really do anything, and I tied that up in like January of 22. And then I didn't do anything the rest of the year. And I saw the market shifting pretty quickly. I saw what was happening in the interest rate environment. And I knew that, wow, I couldn't digest, they have something called negative leverage, where your interest rate would be higher than your stabilized cap rate. And so I was thinking, there's got to be an adjustment. So I'm going to wait, I'm going to wait, I'm going to wait. And then today I have 2 properties under contract. One I'm probably going to close tomorrow or Monday, and then a second one towards the end of February. But so I'm seeing a lot more opportunities in the market today. So in general, I think we're seeing asset values level out or even come down. The problem in today's market is there's not a ton of inventory on the market today. So the inventory that is on the market, maybe it's sitting there for a little bit longer. And I think if you have a net seller at the end of the day, then they're going to be willing to transact, and you can have an opportunity to get a favorable value. If there's not a ton of buyers or there's not a ton of credit-worthy buyers, I'm hearing a lot of stories about people putting properties under contract and then falling out of escrow because they can't get their financing lined up. I can't, outside of any, maybe there's one deal that I fell out of contract on, but it was this catastrophic thing that I couldn't work through with the seller. But that's another thing. If you want to start building a reputation and, buying more properties, then, you could generally come in at a price that you've underwritten, that you feel comfortable with, and then you close on that transaction. And then, the seller's agent understands that, the listing agent understands that. And so then you start to build a rapport. You do what you say, you honor your word, you just make things right.
So let me try to summarize what Bradley's just told us. So he's still buying deals. It's 2023, January of 2023. He's in escrow right now. He's going to close something tomorrow. So clearly you still believe in the market. Yeah. Because there's less buyers out there, that puts you, the buyer, into the driver's seat. Financing at 5+ units, which is probably all that you buy now, I would imagine,
yeah.
For the most part. Just larger units, he's more experienced, he could do that. Financing is down by 80-90% at the commercial level.
Yeah.
Okay, so financing's hard, but that's the negative part. All that, in my opinion, just makes opportunities, and that's what you're able to find.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something, Brad. In the very beginning, you said, hey, when I was buying my first fourplex, I wanted to make cash flow, net worth. You talked about early retirement. Did you achieve those goals? Did you achieve those goals?
I feel like I have. I've certainly accumulated more today than I ever could have dreamed of and I ever could imagine. But, it's not just me. I've invested money on behalf of my family. My sister's a nurse. My parents are retired teachers. There's other people that have invested with me that are just regular people that are working regular jobs, and instead of putting your money in the stock market, you invested in a piece of real estate. Instead of buying a bond, you bought a piece of real estate. So and then my other retirees, I still talk to some investors that are retired that worked at a car dealership, and he calls me once a quarter and he goes, hey, how are things going? Thank you for the distribution. This is what my wife and I are doing at this time in our lives, And so I'm helping other people achieve some of their financial goals that they had set out to do. I don't have a gun to my head to, invest money every day, every quarter, every month. I do it because I find a good deal, and I think that other people should participate with me in investing in these. And two, at the end of the day, we're improving the housing quality. I have different business plans. I house over 100 U.S. veterans. I have a partnership with the Long Beach VA. We house veterans that are in a program called HUD-VASH. We have some of our properties have just regular Section 8 tenants. and we work with those. We have market rate units that we work on. So no matter what, we try to kind of improve the overall quality of our housing. And at the end of the day, these are all units that I would live in, and I have lived in similar neighborhoods and similar building quality, and so I can point to pictures that I still have today to say, look, I've done it.
Right. So one of the things when Brad and I kind of got reunited after the 5 or 6 years had passed, I said, Brad, with that many doors, do you still have a day job? And he said, I just quit my day job a while ago. But so let me just paint the picture of what I've heard. He was honorable in his dealings in a couple different ways, not just with his investors who believed in him. But let me tell you what happens in a real estate transaction. So Brad is the buyer. He's being represented by a buyer's agent. And when he tells the seller and the listing agent, I'm going to buy it from this price, he actually does that. So let me give you an example. Oftentimes there's buyers out there and buyer's agents with horrible reputations in our industry where you do not want to accept their offers because they consistently try to renegotiate after the fact, try to get a massive discount, and then they don't close the transaction. And why do we not like that? Because the seller then wastes all this time. It's a lot more work for the agent. So I'm telling you this because if you end up being a buyer who ends up buying a lot, your reputation matters, okay? Listing agents know who the buyers are. And so these are the people selling the properties. And if Brad has purchased so many properties in the last year or so, then his reputation starts getting better. So a lot of times the deals that Bradley's buying, they don't hit the market. He gets a call from the agents. Why? Because he's got it to that point where his reputation speaks for himself and they know he's a buyer, honorable in his dealings. And so this was, and I don't know if this was his plan from the beginning, but he's put himself in a situation where guess what? The deals are chasing him. He's not out there chasing the deals are chasing him. And furthermore, on the financing side, because I remember you told me that you have everything organized, and when you find a deal, you send it directly to the bank in one file, and it just speeds up the process of you getting the transaction.
Yeah, and so I was a little lucky with my day job is that I learned a good process from a big company, and so I learned how they dealt with transactions and how they stayed organized, and so. But just like in any other job, you have a filing system, you have. You learn how to work in Excel and to calculate your cash flows and your rents and your mortgage. And so it was just all just practice. And there's a lot of things I didn't know how to do. And I just learned and I practiced and I made mistakes. I mean, we're here talking about some successes I've had, but I've had a lot of failures, and I've made mistakes on, thinking where the construction costs were higher or where maybe our rents, where we were pushing market rents, I was off a little bit. But, you figure out a way to overcome that. Maybe we can get more rent if we charge for parking or, if we put in laundry inside the unit, then we can increase the value of the property. So I talked about some of them, helping my investors, right? I talk about, obviously I like the chase, I like the realist, I like the negotiation, I like, working under the gun to, figure out, God, how do I close this thing? What pieces do I have to put together? But I've also learned wow, I owe some of what I've learned to my tenants, to my investors, to my community, to the community that we're serving. And so probably over the last, I would say 2 years, I kind of hit a little bit during COVID, and I saw some of the struggles that people had gone through and realizing wow, there's more to life than money, of course, and there's more to life than just maximizing, your energy. I have 3 kids now. And so I'm spending more time with my family, with my wife, but also I helped the tenant purchase a duplex, and I kind of coached them into what to expect in the process, how to, structure their lease agreements. Maybe they were doing some repairs or remodeling. I kind of coached them through that. And so that is, I helped one of my contractors purchase a triplex. I actually let him co-invest with me. I'm helping another contractor purchase a duplex. And so, there's people that have these dreams, right, of owning a piece of real estate, and it just might be the first home for them. It might be an investment property. But for me, if I can give them some guidance, if I can help them along the way, I mean, they don't have a resource to go to. They don't have a rich uncle. They don't have, and so your resources are, kind of your network, and then who you can reach out to, who you can, be thoughtful, and you have questions and you want to, learn from someone who has more experience. You'd be amazed how many people helped me along the way and gave me their time. I mean, we talk about raising equity and syndicating and all that stuff, but like, there's so much you can do on your own time to learn from other people. And so someone that I thought I would go to give me money to buy a real estate deal, I actually got more value from them by just spending more time with them so they could educate me on things that I needed to understand or know, or maybe introductions they did for me in the business, so then I could have another resource to help me kind of continue to grow.
Yeah, and I could speak to that. In the last couple of years when I've been speaking with Brad, it's shifted from, of course, listen, he said, I love the excitement of chasing a deal. There is a thrill that we get. You get goosebumps sometimes, and he's done a lot more than I have, but I understand what that is. I've seen this kind of more of a passion project coming out of Brad, where he's like, Juan, what can we do to reach out to the underserved, teach them about the importance of home ownership? So it's kind of shifted, and it could be that some people might say, well, Brad made it, and so then in their version of made, and so now you're in this position of where you legitimately want to give back.
Yeah.
You legitimately want, like, all the contractors that worked with you, which I've had a chance to meet, and you bring them around, and we have events, and you bring them there, which I think is awesome. Yeah. You bring them to the lunches and stuff, and it's exposing these people to maybe resources, like you said, that they wouldn't have had. But I think that it's amazing, because I don't want anyone to watch this and be like, oh, it's just get rich. In your case, just build wealth in a very quick time. But I think what I really see is the sincerity of you wanting to give back, being an example, and again, paying it forward, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, but even it's all effort into, you give people time, even my contractors or my attorneys or people I've worked with over the years, and you give them time, and then they give you, there's something you get in return, whether it's, they work on their job a little bit harder, or there's some advice you're able to give one of their nieces, who was interested in purchasing a piece of real estate, or someone was interested in starting a company and they needed to understand maybe they wanted to create an LLC and what the process was and the formation documents that they needed. So anyhow, and then I would never charge for that. I would never hang up. I would never say, oh, I'm too busy. It was like, I would just figure out a way to make time to help them, to accommodate them, to maybe point them in the right direction. And so, yeah, it's just, I've learned so much over the years. And again, my dream was never to my dream isn't to get to 10,000 units or 20,000 or, it just, I like being able to be impactful in my community and, continue to help investors that are looking to, achieve a market return on their money and achieve some of their financial goals.
So let's touch on that. A lot of folks out there follow our channel. Someone's going to watch this and they're going to say, you know what, Brad is very sincere. And watching this video, I believe in Brad. If someone wants to invest with you, are you taking people in? Clearly there's qualifications, income qualifications. Yeah. Are you looking to do that, or are you pretty set with who you have now?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, more than happy to talk to people, and whether you invest with me or you invest with someone else, or maybe you were sent an investment, and you're just like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? I get people that do that to me all the time. My friends, I'm in a running group. Some guy sent me a deal. He goes, hey, what do you think about this? And I can just give him my general thoughts. I mean, in general, you're investing with the person. We can, because I'm going to come up with assumptions, right? Where I think the rents are, the loan I can get, how much the cost to renovate it is. But like, those are assumptions that how do you believe in me? Do you believe in the person that you're going to invest with? What's their character? What do the other investors say about them? What other deals have they done? And so I learned that in the institutional world, where people were asking questions about, they wanted to get to know who the operator was and what kind of person they were and how they interacted or reacted in certain situations, And so things aren't always great. You have problems, there's struggles that you come upon. So it's how do you overcome those, And so, certainly. I mean, I will, we can share my contact information, and I'm certainly open to helping anyone and from anywhere, whoever either wants to talk to an experienced investor or has a question, something as simple as you're buying a single family home to a 50 unit, 100 unit apartment building, and you have questions regarding that.
It's very honorable, everything that you've talked about. Brad, give us, some top tips.
Yeah.
For people getting started, or for people maybe they're the next Brad. They have 12 units, a couple fourplexes. Hopefully they worked with us, and now they're ready to syndicate.
Yeah.
Give me some tips that you're like, if someone would have told me these 3 things, man, I would have done things differently.
Okay. I have a couple. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. When you're making investments and you're taking risk, you could be risking money that took you several years to save up, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, and all that hard work you did over the years to save up that money. So you're taking risk, but you're also receiving a return for that risk, right? And so I think Warren Buffett says, make investments, but never lose your principal. So generally, like, you probably shouldn't be losing your principal in these deals if you're doing some general research on the market values and where other properties are trading, and so you're going to preserve your equity. So I remember playing sports and getting butterflies in my stomach before games, and I get those butterflies when I'm buying real estate today. And I'm an experienced investor. I have 250 units. I'm buying a 10-unit property. I'm nervous. What if things don't go the way I think, But I know the risk profile. I know the return I can get on my money. And so I'm more comfortable with that today. And that obviously has improved over time. Okay. The other component is, there's a saying of under promise and over deliver, some syndicators out there will try to push their market rents, will try to push their assumptions. Maybe they try to skimp on some of their renovations so they can shave down their renovation costs. My general theme was kind of like underwrite something that's conservative, that I would tell anyone, that, hey, this is kind of where I have comps, where I think the market is. And then great, if you beat that, then your investor is going to be happy about that. If you outperform, then they're going to be happy. But it's a much, much tougher conversation to come back and say, hey, we thought we were going to get this, but we're 10% below. Sure. Hey, we thought we were going to spend this, but we spent more. And yeah, have fun. It's all about be authentic, have fun. It's a journey. I think about my journey and how my life has changed, but I really haven't changed personally. I think, I'm still having fun today. That's why I'm still doing it. I enjoy the learning process. I enjoy, seeing people around me grow and be smarter, and kind of just enjoy the journey with me. And I always know, like, I can't just elevate myself. I need to elevate the people around me, because we're going to be a team. And I can't tell you how many phone calls I've been on, 10 o'clock at night, Saturday, Sunday, but I enjoyed it. I loved it. It's a journey. It was a passion of mine, and I still do. And so I still have those calls. My wife will yell at me if if we have dinner and I got to get off the phone and I know I got to hang up, I got to be with my kids and be present. And we have a lot of events that we plan, but also I love it and I want to help I want to help as many people that are around me and also new people. I'm meeting new people every day and figure out a way to help them. So
no, I love it. So being comfortable with the uncomfortable, over delivering, which of course, and then having fun. Let me focus on being uncomfortable, because for anyone out there who is saying, hey, in 2023, New Year's resolution, I'm going to buy my first investment property. Yeah. You're going to tell them that they're going to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Because I know you're going to be uncomfortable. So you're never going to have this comfortable feeling going in, whether it's your first one or it's your 100th one. That uncomfortable feeling is still there. Now, granted, Brad has that experience, but I'm glad he said that, because even when I'm buying something, you still get nervous. Yeah. And there's always these what ifs. And I know that you tuning in have those what ifs, because I talk to you. You tell me these concerns, but it's one of those where we got to get you guys off the sidelines. We got to stop being spectators, and we got to take action. And when you do, it's when you're going to learn and you're going to see that success. And more importantly, reach out to Brad. Brad wants to help. He's definitely a resource. He's local, and we just can't thank you enough for being here. So there you have it. I hope you learned a lot from Brad. He's a genuine person. What you're going to see on camera, what you saw on video, that's exactly who he is. Calm, collective. Certainly now, tons of confidence. He's had so much success. I hope you learned a lot. My biggest takeaways is he stuck with his word. He researched his stuff. He had the goals going into it. And the deals are chasing him now because of the reputation that he's built. So let's take away from that is that if you do things right from the very beginning, you're consistent, I think more and more doors are going to open for you. So I hope you took away that message today. Several announcements that I want to make. If you're in Southern California, we are starting a in-person meetup group. This is where we're going to meet together to learn and network. So these are free events hosted at our offices the last Thursday of every month. So please stay tuned. Send us a message if you're interested. Again, if you're looking to acquire a property, maybe get a quote on a loan, please remember that we do have Sage Trust Mortgage. And last but not least, big announcement, we are going to partner up with Brad Johnson, and we're going to bring to you a course on syndication. I'm collecting an interest list, so if you want to learn, we briefly went over what a syndication is, but we're going to dive deep into this course so that you know how to do it by the time that you're ready. Okay, so send us a quick message. Let us know that you're interested in this syndication class, and we'll make sure to send you the details as soon as we have them. That's all for now. Thanks for tuning in.